Mohenjo-Daro was one of the greatest cities of the ancient world. Its streets were carefully planned, its houses were built from standardized bricks, and its people created an astonishing system of wells and drains. Then, sometime around the end of the 3rd millennium BCE, this remarkable city declined. But here is the mystery. There is no clear sign that Mohenjo-Daro was destroyed by a massive invasion, a final battle, or one spectacular catastrophe. There was no obvious moment when the city simply disappeared. So what really happened to Mohenjo-Daro? To understand the mystery, we have to first understand what this city had become. Mohenjo-Daro stood in the Indus Valley, in what is now southern Pakistan. It was one of the major urban centers of the Indus Civilization, a society that flourished across parts of modern Pakistan and northwestern India thousands of years ago. At its height, Mohenjo-Daro was an extraordinary achievement. Streets followed an organized layout. Houses contained wells and bathing areas. Wastewater was carried through sophisticated drainage systems. Bricks were produced in remarkably standardized sizes. This was not a primitive settlement, slowly growing without direction. It was a carefully organized city, and that makes its decline even more difficult to explain. When archaeologists began excavating Mohenjo-Daro in the 20th century, they uncovered ruins that seemed to invite a dramatic story. Some human remains were found in the city, and early interpretations connected them to a violent destruction. That idea became popular. Perhaps invaders had entered Mohenjo-Daro and massacred its inhabitants, but the evidence does not support that simple conclusion. The skeletons do not demonstrate a citywide massacre, and there is no convincing archaeological evidence of a final invasion that destroyed Mohenjo-Daro. So, if an army did not wipe the city out, what happened? One possibility points toward the environment. The Indus Civilization depended heavily on rivers, rainfall, agriculture, and predictable water supplies. When those conditions changed, the effects could spread through the entire society. Research into ancient climate patterns suggests that parts of the Indus region experienced weakening monsoon conditions and repeated periods of drought. But this does not mean that one enormous drought suddenly killed Mohenjo-Daro. The more likely picture is slower and more complicated. Environmental stress may have occurred repeatedly, making farming and urban life increasingly difficult. People could respond by changing crops, moving toward other regions, or abandoning large cities for smaller settlements. And there is another piece of the puzzle, the river itself. But Mohenjo-Daro was part of something much larger. This may explain one of the most important clues about the end of Mohenjo-Daro. The people did not simply vanish. Urban life declined, but communities continued living across the wider region. Populations shifted towards smaller settlements and different areas. The civilization transformed. Mohenjo-Daro declined. Its people did not simply disappear. But there is one enormous problem standing between us and a definitive answer. We cannot read the Indus script. Thousands of seals and objects contain symbols left behind by the civilization, but their meaning remains uncertain. We do not know exactly what the people of Mohenjo-Daro called their city. We do not know the names of its rulers, and we do not possess a written account explaining why its urban system eventually declined. Imagine how different this mystery would be if one ancient tablet simply said, "This is why we left." But no such message has been found. That silence is what makes Mohenjo-Daro so haunting. Popular stories often portray the city as a place that suddenly vanished in violence.